print, email, Facebook, Twitter. Morsa government decides not to go ahead with Aboriginal treaties. The South Australian government has scrapped a process to negotiate treaties with the state's Aboriginal nations. It comes on the same day the Northern Territory pledged to work towards a treaty with its Indigenous peoples. Premier Stephen Marshall said his government was instead in the process of developing a statewide plan with a series of defined outcomes for Aboriginal people across areas including education, child protection, health and jobs. Treaty Commissioner Roger Thomas has provided advice to the incoming government regarding the positives and negatives of the treaty consultation. Mr. Marshall, who is also Aboriginal Affairs Minister, said, "While the new government is not continuing with the treaty process, we are committed to continuing our discussions with Aboriginal communities about the implementation of our Aboriginal Affairs policy." The previous Labour government announced that it would enter treaty discussions with Aboriginal nations in 2016. It appointed senior Aboriginal community leader Roger Thomas as Treaty Commissioner last year, and in February the government signed an agreement with the Yorke Peninsula's Narrowonga people as the state's first step towards a treaty with an Aboriginal group. In April this year, Mr. Marshall, as incoming Premier, asked Mr. Thomas to prepare a report on his consultation. Reports suggested way the government to proceed. Mr. Thomas today said that Aboriginal people had told him they were keen to start a conversation on a treaty but overwhelmingly preferred to negotiate separately as nations rather than collectively. They were very clear on that, he told the ABC. However, this could slow down the process, he said. It would be a long-term aspiration, he said. Mr. Thomas's report recommended asking for expressions of interest from the Aboriginal nations to start negotiations. Kiama started the treaty process as Aboriginal Affairs Minister and is now Labour's spokesman for the portfolio. "This is a fundamental betrayal of Aboriginal people in South Australia," Mr. Ma said. "For far too long, policymakers have been doing things to Aboriginal people, not with Aboriginal people. A massive amount of work had been put in by Aboriginal people towards a treaty," he said. He said the Premier had done very little consultation on the issue. "To decide unilaterally without consultation to not go ahead with the most important reform process in Aboriginal affairs that we're undertaking, I think there will be a lot of anger and it will be very difficult for the new government to operate with Aboriginal communities, letting them down in this way," he said. Yesterday, the lower house of Victoria's Parliament voted in favour of negotiating Australia's first Aboriginal treaty, after the state's Labour government won crucial support from the Greens.